Hello, my friends. Today we're learning Mציעא Daf Hayomi. So we're gonna say first that Daish Loisach Soim Shor B'Dishoy. Daish Dishoy means the threshold. So they'd have the wheat. The wheat comes with a peel that's very hard to disconnect it from the grain. So they take it to a place, the threshold, and they'd have their cow with like a piece of wood behind it, and it'd go in all the wheat, and it would separate it. So it says you're not allowed to block an ox from eating when he's in the threshold, when he's working in the threshold. So it says Gemara, different learnings from the word Daish. Tonu Rabbanon, Daish. Ma Daish miyuchad, it's specific. Dovo shegedulei karka, what do you put in there? Something that grows, like wheat. And a cow that's a poil also is allowed to eat in that, and we learn a person from a cow. Af kol shegedulei karka, anything that grows, a poil is allowed to eat. Yotza, why are they coming to exclude? Achoilev, v'amechabetz, v'amegaven, that's all different things of cheese and milk. She'en gidulei karka, because they don't come out the ground, they come out of the milk. Ve'en poil oichel boy. So in such a case, in such a place, even though you're working, you can't eat. If you work in a farm or in or a cheese place, you can't eat when you're working. Says the Gemara, Lomoli, why do we need this pasuk? We learned it already from when your friend comes into the vineyard, and we learned that b'shor shatanoisen lekelev shel balabais, and that's only b'gmar melocha. Says the Gemara, it's trich. No. We do need this chiddush over here. I might have thought oil v'ksiv kama. Rabbis call bali kama. We merabba that from kama all types of something that grows, that's something that's like in a field. Rabbis nami midi delav gidule karkaninu. Maybe it's coming to mechadish such a big chiddush, and only wheat and barley and everything else, all that grows, even milk. That's why I need this pasuk to tell you kamash malon that no, the milk and cheese is not considered something that a poil has a right to eat. Tanya Idoch, we learned in another brayse, a daish, a different limud from the word daish. Ma daish miyuchot dovo shebeshas k'ma melocha poil oichel boy. Af kol shu b'shas k'ma melocha poil oichel boy. Why are they coming to exclude? Yotza menakesh bashumim, that's taking out the bad seeds between the garlics, ubavatolim, between the onions, oil vein marmelachtom, oil vein marmelacha. Since it's not the end of the melacha, the onions and the garlic is still growing. In such a case, Paul can't eat. Says the Gemara, Lomoli, why do we need to learn it from Daish, this din that it's before Gmar Melocha you can't eat? We learned it already before. Mibel Kelecha lo titen, that's Dafka b'shor shatanoisen b'kelev shel balabais, then he could eat. But here is not noisen b'kelev shel balabais. He's only taking out the bad weeds. Why would you think he could eat? So the Gemara lo tzricha afal gav komash lifktini mibein alimi. It's not one that he's taking out bad weeds. He's taking out the small onions to make the bigger onions that are growing better, more space to grow, and that is noisen kelev shel balabais, because the balabais keep those onions. So in that time, can the poil eat those onions with those garlics? Because it's b'shas shenoisen kelev balabais, but it's not gmar melocha, because the gmar melocha is when the big ones get picked. That's what this pasuk tells you, that the poil can't eat in such a situation. Tanya Idoch, we learned in another brayse, Daish, another learn from Daish, ma Daish miyuchad dovo shelo nigmar melachto lemaisa poil oichel boy, like the threshold. It's not ready. The wheat in the threshold is not chayav ma'isa yet, because it's not all it took into the house or in a curry and a pile. And poil can eat, like we said, a cow and a cow person. Af kol shleim merachto lemaisa poil oichel boy. So anything that's not nigmar melachto, that's not yet chayav ma'isa, at the time a poil is allowed to eat from the Torah. Why is he coming to exclude? Yotza, boider, but tomorrow someone take dry figs and dates that were like connected together, and his job is to separate them. So it's already chayav b'maisa. Oil v'nigmar melachto lemaisa. In poil oichel boy. So poil is not allowed to eat in such a situation. So after gmar melocha, that's it. No eating. Ask the Gemara about Tanya Boydil Batmorim Rodriguez Poyel Oichel Boy. Clear price of the opposite, that someone who does exactly that job is allowed to eat. It's a spira. Amar Papa Kitanya Betuchalmi. It's talking about special dates and figs. Sorry, it's talking about dates that are bad and they get rape and good only when they only later on you have to do a procedure with them. So it's not mechoy b'maisi yet, only after the procedure. So that in that case, he could still eat if that's his job to do because it's not chai b'maisi in that case. Tanya Yiduch, we learned another brace about Daish. Daish, man Daish miyuchot over shelo nigmor melachto lechala. Now we're saying like we said before, lo nigmor melachto lemaisi. Now we're saying lechala. Upoy lo ichil boy, and a poy is allowed to eat. A cow, like we said, lo yisachtem sherbet dishoy, af kol dover shelo nigmor melachto lechala. Anything that lo nigmor melachto lechala, poy lo ichil boy. Yotza, why is he coming to exclude alosh v'mekatef v'oifa? Someone who takes flour and water and mixes it together and makes it into dough, and the one who after it's the dough he makes it like shiny, and the baker. All those people who got a job to do one of those jobs, shenigmor melachto lechala, since it's already chayav b'chala already before that, the ein poel lo yichel boy. Poel is not allowed to eat over there, even though that's gedule karka. So says the Gemara Kash on that. V'alo nigmor melachto lemaisa. Why do we need to come on to chala? We said before anything that nigmor melachto lemaisa is good. So is already lo oichel boy already before mixing the flour with the water. It's already nigmor melachto because it happened in a curry when it was in a pile already. Already just taking the chitim and toiching them and making them into flour, that's already should be particle or poil content because it's chai b'maisa. So the Gemara loy kashya kan b'chutz loy kashya b'chutz loretz askin and deleka maisa. It's uma b'chutz loretz and there's no maisa, and that's why we're saying that even though there's no maisa, but it's chai b'chala. So from the time that it's chai b'chala, you can't eat. So the Gemara yochi. If it's from chutz loretz, chala nami leka. There's no chala. If there's no ma'isa, there's no chala in chutz loretz. So why will chala yes be mechayev? Sorry. So the Gemara says elo lo ilom b'aretz. Really, it's talking about in Israel. Lo kasha kan b'sheva shekivshuvu b'sheva shechilku. That it's talking about in the 7 years when Yeshua came into Eretz Yisrael over the Yarden. So the first 7 years before they split up Eretz Yisrael, they had special dinim. In those years of Sheva Shekivshu, the 7 years that they conquered the Sheva Shechilku, and the 7 years afterward that they split up between the Shvatim, Nischayvu b'chala, they were chayiv already in mitzvahs chala, but lo nischayvu b'maisa, they were not chayiv maisa. So that price is told in that time, and therefore we have to come on to chala because of maisa they're not chayiv. So even if it's in a flour, you could still eat it. The pearl could eat. But if it's already a dough, then already it's chayiv chala. So then a pearl can't eat. So on the Gemara, l'chara it's a good teretz. So the Gemara is going to slop up this whole idea. So the Gemara, midi maisa kagorim, gmar melocha kagorim. Is it the maisa that causes that from then the pearl can't eat? We know pearl could eat b'shas gmar melocha until it's chai b'maisa. So is it the chiv the maisa that makes the pearl can't eat, or it's only because that's gmar melocha? The gmar melocha l'maisa is the time that pearl doesn't eat from anymore. We don't care if it's chai b'maisa or not. It's not the point. It's gmar melocha. So let's see it inside again. Midi maisa kagorim, gmar melocha kagorim. That what causes it. Elomar Ravina, Kroich Vatoni. We'll put these two last prices together. Daish. It says in the Pasuk Leisachsom Shor Bedishoy. What do we learn from Daish? Ma Daish miyuchodova shelo nigmor melachto lemaisa lechala. Like a threshold. It's not chayiv, not maisa, not chala. Upoil lo yichel boy, and a pearl is allowed to eat at that time from the produce. Af kol dovo, af kol shelo nigmor melachto lemaisa lechala. Upoil lo yichel boy. Anything that's not chayiv, not chala, and no maisa, it's the time that pearl could eat. And why do we need to add chala? So Rashi is going to explain. אלו קרויך וטוניר, says Rashi. מה דייש מיוחד שלא נגמר מלאכתו למעשה ולחלה? Both things שהם דברים הנהוגים בו, אף כל שלא נגמר מלאכתו לדובר נוהג בו, ולמעשה לחודי למעשה, אם לחלה לחלה. יוצא בוידר בתמורים דנגמר למעשה ואין בהם דובר מאוחר ממנו, ויוצא לו שנגמר מלאכתו למאוחר שבוי. So if it's something, says the Gemara saying now, if it's something that's chayav only Maisa, so whenever it's chayav Maisa, you can't eat. The Pole's not allowed to eat. But if it's something that there is a matzah of challah, if it's a dough, wheat that could be into a dough, so then the Maisa is not mechayav it. Then the Maisa doesn't change, and then it's all called Marmelocha, and the Pole could still eat. You have to wait until challah. And therefore we answer our kasha that we asked. Says the Gemara, Iboilu, Bashayla, Poyel Ma'u Shiavev Ba'or. We said that Poyel is not allowed to make the fruit that he's eating, like the grapes, make it tastier so he could eat it more, to mix it with salt. We learned that before. So now the Gemara is asking, if he puts the grapes on the fire and makes it sweeter, is he allowed to do that? Is that considered like eating with something else that's forbidden, or is this considered not something else? It's just that it got a better taste. What's the shayla? Like we know you're not allowed to put it on your sandwich, the fruit, and eat it. You have to eat it by itself. Or is this the same grapes? Nothing. It's not something else. A fire is not something else that you're eating. So the Gemara Toshma, come and listen. Rashi balabais laashkos poyalim yain kedei shelo yochlu anovim arbe. The boss is allowed to give his workers wine that they shouldn't have appetite to eat a lot of grapes, because they're allowed to eat as much as they want while they're on the job. Rashayim poyalim letabel pitum batzir kedei sheyochlu anovim arbe. And also the workers, if they want to eat something spicy or something that will make them some type of dip that's going to make them eat more grapes, so they're allowed to, and then they eat more grapes. So we could see that it's allowed to make a person eat more grapes. Also, it's allowed to put it on the fire. So the Gemara on the base, no. I wasn't asking about to make the person very in a big appetite or in a small appetite. That's for sure, no problem. He's allowed to make, the pearl is allowed to make himself in a big appetite. The boss is allowed to try that he shouldn't be in big appetite. We're talking about over here, what we're asking, to make the fruit itself better. So, vineyard is like lots of lines. At the end of the line, there's much more sun, because that's where it finishes. So that's Roshi Umniyos. So they're allowed to wait until they should eat the grapes from the end of the line where there's more sun and it's better grapes. They're not allowed to put in the fire. It says a clear price, so they're not allowed to put in the fire. So the Gemara also over there, because if he puts in the fire, he's wasting time. He's not working. He was paid to work, so it's forbidden. But because it's not, it's not. And we're asking a case where there's no bitum malacha. What's the case? We're asking when his wife and kids are walking with him, and they didn't get paid to work. They're hanging out with him, and they could put on the fire for him. Then what or not? Toshma, come and listen. You shouldn't put it in the fire to make it sweet. You shouldn't put it in the ground and eat it. Yeah, yichmor means yichamin. He makes it warmer in the hot sand. They break it on a rock. It's also some technique to make it sweeter or something. Rashi says that they do it to the apples. Be allowed to like warm it up on your hand, like rub it between your hands and warm it up. And he's allowed to eat. So we see clearly that you're not allowed to be ma'avev ba'or. Our shayla said the more also mishum bitum melacha. Oh, and that's because bitul melacha, like what we said before, because you don't have someone to do for you the job, so you're not doing your job. You have to work. Often I mean, I'll bring you right. That's from because of bitul melacha. The isal kedaitach l'shum tuke peri. If you think it's talking about because you're making yourself peri fruit sweeter, and now you're gonna eat more. Salamai tuke peri. So what is it when you bang on the rock? In what? It doesn't make it sweeter, says the Gemara. So if it doesn't make it sweeter, why shouldn't he allow to do it? Elomai, it's because bitul melacha. Says the Gemara, no. Really, if you do bang on the rock, it gets a little bit sweeter, and therefore, it's no raya. It could be that the is not because, like what we're saying, because of bitul melacha. Really, it's because of you're not allowed to put it on the fire. But we don't have a raya, no here, no here. Says the Gemara, Toshma, come and listen. Poelim shoyu oidrim bateinim. Poelim workers who were working in the fig field, and they were digging. The Gordim Batmorim, and in the dates, it's a type of each type of tree fruit has a different name for picking. So the Gordim Batmorim, the Boitrim Banovim, taking the grapes off the tree, Moiskim Bazaisim, and when you take off the olive trees, until today, Masik means when you go for the olives to get them off the trees. Moiskim Bazaisim, Aryeh Elo Oichlim Upturim. And these people allowed to eat, and they're not chayiv in Maisa. Why? The Torah was mizaka them to eat. But pitom lo echelu to put it in the sandwich. Elen kinoko rishus me balabais. Only if balabais gave them permission. Velo ispois bamelach v'yoichal. And he shouldn't dip it in the salt and eat. So the Gemara says, like you're not allowed to put it in the salt, and salt, you're not really eating salt. So it's like putting in the fire, and it says it's forbidden. Says the Gemara, no. Melach vaday kan novim medov acher domi. For sure, eating it with salt, that's like eating in a sandwich, because it's something else at the end. The salt's on the fruit. But here we're talking about that you just put it on the fire, so there's no extra ingredient on the grape. So maybe it should be mutter. So now the Gemara doesn't answer the shaila if you're allowed to or not, and now the Gemara is going to jump on something that we just said in the price and ask a kasha on that. So we said, you shouldn't dip it into salt and eat it. Very minhu, I have a kasha on that. Someone who rented a worker to dig. It means to cover the roots. Tachas hazeisim, underneath the olive trees. Sorry about all the noise here. Tachas hazeisim arei velo yoichal. That's, in such a case, he's not allowed to eat, because it's not gmar melocha. Socher liftzor, to take off the grape. Socher you rented him to take off the grapes or to take off the olives, or the fruit that fall off the tree, and you just have to pick it up from the floor. He's allowed to eat, and he's potted for Maisa. And the Torah is mizaka for him to eat this and not have to give Maisa. Now here this price adds in an interesting case that we never had until now. Kotzatz, if he didn't come for job and didn't talk to Balabais about what he's eating, what he's not eating, just came, and obviously he's allowed to eat because Maturi is allowed to eat. That's the normal case. Here it's Uma Kotzatz. He agreed with Balabais before he came, before he started his job, that he's allowed to eat fruit. And now when you do that, it's like a sale, because now it's already agreement. He didn't really have to agree, but once he did it, it's like it's agreement that between you, so it's a type of sale. So now it has different dinim, like we learned, sometimes chayiv before balabais. Once the meiser of sale happens, the one who buys it is chayiv b'meisres. So this spoil becomes like a loikech because he fixed it with balabais. So said the brisa kotzatz, if he agreed achas we go without the vav 1 eating one by a time yoichal, he's allowed to eat shtayim, but to eat two at a time lo yoichal. he's not allowed to eat. The soifas b'melach v'yoichal, and he's allowed to put in the salt and eat it. Says the Gemara, hi. And why is that going? That last sentence that we just said that he's allowed to eat with salt, because we had here two parts to the brisa. The ratio was the classic case that it says a poil is allowed to eat, and then it says that if it was kotzatz, depends 1 on 1 or 2 or 2, and then it says that he's allowed to eat with salt. So the Gemara, hi. If it's someone the seifa where we're speaking about where he agreed with balabais, given the kotzatz, if he agreed with balabais, koleche de poilo yichol, he could eat it with salt, without salt, in his sandwich, wherever he agreed with balabais a deal, that's how he could eat it. So obviously, if he agreed, he's allowed to eat it that way. Elo lavaresha must be talking in the case where he wasn't kotzatz, where he didn't agree, just came to work without having agreement about eating or not eating. And it says in a ratio where he didn't come and agreed, that what's the din? The din is that he's allowed to put in the salt. And before we said you're not allowed to put in the salt because it's like a novim edovacher. So it's a kasha. Omar Abaye loy kasha. Can borrow it, can b'chutz loret. The brisa where it says that it's forbidden to put in the salt is in Eretz Yisrael. The brisa where it says that it's mutter is talking about b'chutz loret. The Gemara explains, borrow it's kovas fiso. In Eretz Yisrael, once you salt it, it's considered like choshev, and it's chayav now b'maisers, and you can't eat it anymore. B'chutz loret, if it's b'chutz loret with maisers only the rabbanon, like a boy svisa. There's no svisa doesn't make it into putting into salt, dipping into salt doesn't make chiyuv maisers. So he's allowed to eat. Omar Rava mi kemidi de barat kovas fita midoraisa. It doesn't make any sense that there's something then Eretz Yisrael where Maisa the Raisa, once you put in the salt, it's Chai b'Maisa, over Chutz Loret, where it's only the Rabbanon, Loikovo is Svisa, so with the Rabbanon, it's not Chal b'Maisa now. It doesn't make sense. The Rabbanon came to Raisa Tikkun. Umute lechatchila, and I'll be allowed to eat this lechatchila in Chutz Loret, even after that you've done Svisa, then Eretz Yisrael, that's something that's Chai b'Maisa. It doesn't make sense, you Teret Abai. Ela Omar Rova, says Rova, bein b'Haaretz, bein b'chutz Haaretz, chod lo yikaboy svita, ta'at yikaboy svisa. It doesn't matter if you're in Eretz Yisrael or b'chutz Haaretz. If you eat one, putting in salt, it's not mechayve b'maisa. If you eat two together and you dip it in salt, kaboy svisa, then it is chayve b'maisa. Kotzatz, if he agreed with balabais and he came with the agreement that he's allowed to eat, bein sofas, bein loy sofas, doesn't matter if he dipped it in salt or didn't dip in salt, just eating it as it is. Achas oichel, he's only allowed to eat one at a time. Shtaim lo oichel, two at a time he shouldn't eat, because it's like a mechira, it's like a loikech, that's chai b'maisa. Loy kotzatz, if he wasn't agreed with the Balabai, if he just came down to work and it's al pi Torah, veloy sofas, and he didn't put in salt, oichel shtaim, he could even eat two at a time, because he's no loikeach, and no problem to eat two. Only if you're loikeach, two is a problem. Sofas, but if he did put in salt, achas oichel, he's allowed to eat one at a time. Shtaim lo oichel, but if you eat two, he's not allowed to eat, because the salt, when it's two, it does make it into chiyuv maisa. And it's somewhat the safer way, it's somewhat where he's kotzatz, even then you're not allowed to eat, because it's not a problem of the agreement with him. The problem is here maisa. That's a problem over here. Says the Gemara, v'tarti de kavoy svisa minolon. How this din are you telling me that? 1 second. Let's go back a second line. Even if Balabais gave him permission, because the problem why he's not allowed to eat it if it's two, it's not because Balabais, it's because the problem that's Chai b'Maisa now, the kovos svisa. And then it is koiveh. Correct the Gemara, v'tarti the kovos svisa minolon. How do we know that only two is considered like only then it's considered chai b'maisa? How do we know that's especially two? Amar Rav Masna the Omar Kor, it's in the pasuk, Kiftzechem, he gathered you kamur gorno, he gathered you like a pile of hay. So a Gurin has to be a kibbutz of a few things, and a kibbutz is minimum 2. So that's when it's called a Gurin that's Chai B'maisa, when you have 2, but if it's 1, it's not considered a Gurin. Thank you very much, everyone. Should have a good success in their life.